My dear friends, within these octave of Christmas, today the Church, as I said before, presents to us the feast of the Holy Family. And therefore the Church reminds us what it means to be a family in the context of the Holy Family. Now, for most of us living in this present age, some of us are blessed to have traditional families. But most of us in society, we know we are from non-traditional families. Families that are broken, families that are separated and divided, families that have experienced great sorrow, and families that have experienced joy in the same context. Therefore, what the Church reminds us in celebrating the Holy Family is, families are messy places. None of us are born to a perfect family, nor do we have perfect people who belong to our families. We hurt each other, we have disagreements, and sometimes, if the disagreements are so great, we decide to call it quits. I myself, as a priest, have seen parents separated because of differences that they cannot even comprehend. But if you look at it, sometimes it is just minor things that have built up over time. I have seen children separated from their parents because they don't like what the parents stand for. And therefore, in that same context, we are called to gaze upon the Holy Family. On Christmas Day, most of us, I hope, did pay a visit to the manger. And as we look at the babe lying in a manger, and his parents, Mary and Joseph, on the side, one of the things I think that strike us is how composed, how devout, how pious Mary and Joseph looked as they behold and they venerated their babe. But my dear friends, as you well know, Jesus was not born in a mansion or even a house. If you go to Bethlehem today, you know he was born in a cave where animals are kept for the night. Once he was born, he didn't have a very fancy cushioned cradle to lay his body on, but in a manger, a food trough that feeds these beasts of burden. And it says after a couple of months, because of the threat of King Herod, they had to flee as refugees to Egypt. And there, in an unknown country, in an unknown place, they had to make do with what they had. Still, at a very young age, tradition says that Mary and Jesus lost St. Joseph, and therefore they had to step up to live their life in a different way. In that same way, even though we see the Holy Family as perfect, it is far from it. Life had thrown rather strong and difficult curveballs on them, where they had to adjust and live. But one thing that kept them together was their faith in the Lord. And that is what made them a holy family. The remembrance, or to remember that God is the very core and the center of our family life. The reason I say this is when a man and woman come before the Lord to be married, it is not the priest that gives them the sacrament of matrimony. It is they themselves promise before God. The priest is just a witness to say that I will take you and you will take me as my partner in life. And we will walk together with the Lord, with God's grace and His blessing. And therefore, as children come, as life goes on, at times we forget that union that we have with the Lord, that the Lord is the creator and the author of marriage. And therefore, we are reminded that with God, everything is possible. In today's first reading taken from the book of Genesis, we see the story of Abraham. Now, Abraham, as we heard in the letter to the Hebrews as well, was a man of faith, but he did not just come lightly to this faith. When God spoke to him to leave his father and his tribe and go to a land that he is showing, he went without any reservations. And then one day it says God called him in an evening and showed him the stars of the sky and said, I will make your descendants as great as these stars that you see, because it is numberless. You cannot count it. And your descendants will be as much as the sand on a seashore. And Abraham believed God. But sadly, one of the things that Abraham, though he believed, he did not have faith in the Lord. And therefore it says, after some time, they decided to take things to their own hands. And Abraham and Sarah decided that Abraham would have a child through their slave Hagar, whom through was born Ishmael. And then once again, God had to step in to make right the wrong that they had done. Because they were impatient, they could not wait for the Lord's promises. Then once again, God sends 3 angels to Abraham to tell him that you and Sarah will have a child of your own. But Sarah, being a woman of age, it says when she heard the words of the angel to Abraham, she laughed out loud because she did not believe that it would happen. And it says, God even changed the name from Abram to Abraham to show that his covenant is with him and he is walking with him. Then after some time, just see how family life works. A hostile ruler takes a fancy to Sarah. And Abraham, who was a coward, said, this was not my wife, but my sister, in order to save his own skin. He did not believe that God was with them, that he had blessed them, and he was their shield and their rock. And then once again, God had to step in to show that he was a God who saves and undo the wrong that Abraham himself had done due to his foolishness. Mother Teresa of Calcutta says, God writes straight what we write wrong or are crooked lines. Because for most of us, we are never perfect. We know that. It is rather narcissistic to think that we are perfect. None of us are. None of us inherit the perfect family. We are not born to a perfect family, nor do we find the perfect partner in life. But one of the things for us as Christians is, when we invoke God's name, when we invoke God into our life, He is the one who walks with us. Therefore, today, as we celebrate this feast of the Holy Family, if there is anything that I would like you to take away from today's Masses, remember that God is with you, because you were baptized and consecrated in the Lord's name, in the Trinity. And therefore, no matter what happens, He is with you. No matter what happens, you are consecrated to the Lord, and therefore, you are a holy family. You are called to walk with trust and faith in the Lord. One of the things that sometimes when I talk about the Holy Family, Many people say that is just a dream, wishful thinking, because it doesn't happen like that in today's society. So therefore, I would like to give you the example of a lighthouse. The Holy Family is like a lighthouse, because the lighthouse shows us the way, shows us how far we are from the shore, from safe shores, or shows us if there is danger in the seas, especially if there are rocks. They're like a beacon that stands there to show us the way. Therefore, today, as we celebrate the feast of the Holy Family, let us ask the Lord to give us the grace that we need to understand our own calling, our own purpose in His divine plan, so that we may walk always with faith and trust in the Lord. Amen.